is Bill Hoy, and this is going to be part two of Why is the World Such a Horrible Place? It's because good intentioned people do not align their thoughts and behaviors with their good intentions, to say the least. Of course, their good intentions aren't always necessarily as good as they think because they don't have the knowledge of objective morality and natural law. That's another thing that I'm trying to correct. My website is willhoy.com, WILLHOEY.com. And once again, this is part two. And in part two here, I'm going to be talking about explaining a little bit more cognitive dissonance and just covering the illusions that people allow to get in the way of their thinking, which causes cognitive dissonance. Like, for example, with the illusion of government, people will not see the belief in government for what it is, which is basically the belief that certain human beings have the right to rule over other human beings, and they will say, well, my neighbor doesn't have the right to rule over me, but this politician, he does because he's gone through the illusory rituals that bestow on him this imaginary power. And they don't realize that that's cognitive dissonance, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't all the ritualistic stuff that these people go through to do what people believe bestows power on these politicians. Like, when the inaugurations, which there's about to be one soon here. I'm from America. I'm from New Jersey. We're in just about January here, 2020. And, there's going to be another inauguration where I guess, I'm pretty sure they, hold up their hand and swear, and they put their hand on a Bible. That's all nonsense, folks. They must crack up laughing. Really. They must really crack up laughing when, before they do that, or after, at the party afterwards. They must die laughing about how stupid people are. I think that even means something. Putting your hand on some stupid Bible. Once again, don't misunderstand me. The Bible is the greatest story ever told. There's a lot of wonderful things in the Bible, Christian Bible. And, there's good things in other Bibles for the other religions, Islam and Judaism. But the ritual itself is stupid, okay? And they must die laughing. They must die laughing afterwards. And so I'm just going to be talking about that, how that puts people in cognitive dissonance. Because people think, well, they've gone through these certain rituals, so that person has the right to punk me like I'm a little boy. And no, that person doesn't have the right to punk you like you're a little boy. And it doesn't matter what it says in any pieces of paper or anything like that, which I'm going to talk about. Your rights are objective, and they don't even have to be written down. All our rights are objective. They don't have to be written down. All we have to do is know them and align our thoughts with them. Align our thoughts, make our thoughts congruent. I talked about this in the part one. And then align our behaviors. Be in complete alignment. And that alignment with objective morality. And that will not solve all our problems, but it will solve the problem of slavery. And once, as we can become more free, as we become more moral, we'll be able to solve problems better. And we got a lot of problems to solve, folks. And we're not going to solve them in slavery. We're not going to solve our problems in slavery. We are not. Let me just turn this down a little bit. We're not going to solve our problems in slavery. Okay? We're not. In order to truly solve, I guess all I can say is solve the problems in our world, we have to at least start becoming more moral and more free. And that's what natural law will give us. As we behave more moral, it'll give us freedom. And then we have to, I've touched on this before, but I'm going to touch on it again. Then it'll give us, we'll be able to better solve things when we're free, not when we're enslaved. It's not going to work. Not going to work, folks. You're looking at the government solution to the problems in our world right now. And you know what that solution is? Get rid of us. Get rid of 7 billion of us. That's the solution. I know I've said this before. I'm saying it again. I got to keep saying it because people just... I know. People probably click right off on this video right as soon as they hear that. And folks, these people, I'll mention Gates as one of them, Bill Gates. They're very open about their plans. They're very open. I mean, everything's coming out for all of us to understand and know and see. And we're too busy drowning in cognitive dissonance. And that's got to go. So, let's see. I just want to make it clear that if I haven't already many times, I'm for an absolute, immediate, abrupt end to all false religions, government, monetary system. I'm all for it. I'll take it. And could the consequences be bad? Yes, they absolutely can. Especially now, because people wouldn't be ready for something like that. There'd be a lot of people, there'd be a lot of really bad things going on. There'd be local communities, the community structures collapsing. It'd be bad. Could be a lot of violence, chaos. We already have that now, but it'll be actual civilians engaging in all kinds of absolute insanity because people wouldn't be ready for the complete collapse of all these religions and systems. They wouldn't be ready for it. But you know what? I just want to be very clear. I'll take it. And whatever the consequences are to me and my family, I know I've said this many times before. I just want to say it again, keep repeating it. I'll take it. But I know most people won't. And this is why I'm doing this. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. I'm doing this because I want people to start learning more about these concepts so they can be ready for the collapses that are coming. Once again, nature has the final great reset, folks, and it's going to be adios muchachos for all of us. But I do think there's going to be some collapses before that, possibly. This is all immediate, folks. This is immediate. This is like within the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm trying to do my part to get people ready, and also just, I don't know, maybe if we start getting enough people out there putting this information out there, maybe we can change this. Maybe we can adjust to the incredible, it's my clock, the incredible challenges we're going to face. Folks, let me tell you something. The challenges we face just from the ending of climate engineering programs and dealing with the waste and these fuel rods in these nuclear power plants is going to be challenging enough. You don't think so? Look at Fukushima. Look up Fukushima Daiichi. You don't think that's a challenge? Immense challenges, folks. Folks, these fuel rods, many of them are active for like hundreds, thousands to tens of thousands of years, like 25,000 years. Some of these, the half-lives on these, some of them like have half-lives of like 1 million years. We have immense challenges, folks. Immense challenges, and in order to face these challenges, we have to be in line with our thoughts and behaviors, and we have to have the knowledge of objective morality, and we got to start working away from slavery, and we got to grow up. We got to become adults. Stop needing proxy, which is a substitute, parents like these politicians. We got to stop needing them. Fat chance. But we will get into the broadcast here. I'm getting a lot of background noise, so let's just cut out. All right, so off to the presentation. You probably won't enjoy it, probably won't even watch it, probably hate it, but look into it. All right, everybody, we're going to cover cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is holding two contrasting thoughts about the same entity. And we got plenty of that in our society. Plenty of that. I pointed this out in many of my videos. So let's just get right to it. Here's what I'm trying to point out here. Most people can see the problems in other countries, other governments, other cultural religions like Christianity, Islam, Judaism. But they can't see the problems in their own country, in their own religion. Of course, many of the problems they can see are just the problems they've been told are problems by their television, but real problems. And they can't see the problems with their own religion, their cultural religion. So I'm from America. I'm from New Jersey. And I am going to be covering the American government and Christianity. Okay, I'm covering Christianity. I mean, because Christianity, I've said this in other videos of mine, because Christianity is pretty much the dominant religion of America, and also I was force-fed all this junk part of Christianity when I was a kid, and I have the most experience with Christians. So to the slide. So this is the way Americans view other governments and religions. You're American Christians. So I'll go to the first bullet point. If China, Iran, North Korea, or Russia tried to rule over Americans, most people would be ready to fight physically. And that's very true. I'm telling you, this is common amongst people of all other countries, especially Western nations. But once again, I'm just speaking for Americans. We Americans just have like serious coarse cognitive dissonance, which I'm going to break it down, and just willful ignorance. I mean, they don't think anything about going to other countries and just committing all kinds of crimes against the citizens in those countries, and the violence against innocent people in those countries. And don't even understand how, especially all these sanctions, economic sanctions, blockades. I mean, these economic sanctions and blockades, I've mentioned this so many times, and I'm going to mention it again. And I'm going to mention it again, I'm going to mention it again. 500,000 Iraqi children died during the economic sanctions of the Bill Clinton years back in the 90s. And of course, that was also set up by the former administration's Gulf, they call it the Operation Desert Storm, or Gulf War. It wasn't a war, it was a slaughter, it was target practice. I've said that many times, and I'm going to keep saying that. So their whole infrastructure was destroyed, and then you put economic sanctions on top of that, and voila, you get 500,000 Iraqi children. 500,000 little ones, man. Children. Little ones, man. Where's your heart, Americans? And I'm not getting off the topic here. I'm right on the topic. I'm right on the topic, because if some other country did that to us, we'd be ready to kill them.
When we Americans do that to another country, it's that willful ignorance. It's that willful ignorance. Or probably the television will tell them, oh, that's just, liberal lies or conservative lies and all that kind of stuff. But bottom line is here, once again, like I said, is the cognitive dissonance when it comes to human rulership. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the true cognitive dissonance here. But once again, if China, Iran, North Korea, or Russia, and folks, I really hope, unfortunately, most people aren't seeing through the whole Russia thing. I mean, that's just straight nonsense. Straight nonsense. But there's many people still believe in that one on the left side of the dichotomy, still believe in that one. I knew a guy from the left side of the dichotomy. I remember his last day at work, man, a couple of years ago. I don't work at this place anymore, but when I was working there, he was retiring, and I remember his last day there. He was like intoxicated with the whole idea that the Russians were taking over our country or something. He's like, he was like insane. Like I thought we were gonna have to call the men with the white clothes on to take him away, because he was like nuts. He was out of his mind. It's unbelievable. So we can all see the problems with China's government, although a lot of people don't realize we're starting to become China. Take a look out your window, you see people walking around with masks. Well, what do you think? Oh, well, football's on, right? Yeah, football. Unbelievable. Look, you want to watch football, fine, watch football. But as far as I'm concerned, what's going on in this country and this world, I can't get into the score of a stupid game. That's just the way it is. A kid's game. Once again, played by big, strong men. Yes, I know, but it's a kid's game. Games are for kids. And games are for entertainment. And I think we have some more pressing issues to deal with right now. But, many people can see, oh, China, China came over here and tried to rule over us. I'd kill them. North Korea, oh, yeah, I'd kill them. The Iranians, which, folks, I mean, as far as I can see with the Iranians, they just want us to leave them alone, is really what I see. Same with North Korea. I mean, and once again, folks, let me tell you something. Government is violence. All governments oppress their people. That's the way it goes. All governments oppress their people. And once again, like I was talking about with these sanctions and these blockades, the government doesn't suffer. One example would be the blockade against North Korea, the blocking of oil coming into North Korea a couple of years ago, right around the December time of year. And, the rulers of North Korea, they had plenty of oil. They were plenty warm. It was under 20 degrees that night in Pyongyang. And many people didn't have oil. But the rulers of North Korea, I forget the guy's name, but the rulers of North Korea, they had plenty of oil. They had plenty of heat. They were nice and toasty. While the people froze. Folks, let me tell you something. That's the game. That's the game. The people always suffer. That's the game. But people just can't get it. And people think, once again, no Iranian, no Chinaman, no North Korean, or no Russian's going to rule over me. And we're gonna get to the cognitive dissonance. So let's go to the next dissonant thought. Next bullet point. Most Christians can understand how many worshippers of Islam and Judaism can be oppressive and violent. I said many. I didn't say all. Once again, there are good natural law-based tenets in all of these religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Okay, there are good tenets. But unfortunately, with all these religions, there are evil tenets. Okay, and different sects, different factions, different secret societies, different splinter groups, all kinds of bad stuff. Folks, religion needs to go. All religions need to go. Government religion, cultural religions, monetary religion. We can have a monetary system, can be based in true value, based in things that have real natural value, and get rid of the usury. But anyway, they can see the problem with other religions. Oh my God, look at all those those Islamists over there in Saudi Arabia, Look how they treat their women. Yeah, look how we treat our women, man. Come on. Seriously? But I'm going to get to this. Yeah. Look at all the oppressive things they do, and boy, do they. Cutting Saudi Arabia, cutting the heads off of dissenters and hanging them from cranes. I'd say that's pretty violent. I'd say that's pretty oppressive. What they're doing in Yemen, what we're doing in Yemen, we Americans are doing in Yemen. I've mentioned that a lot, and I'm going to keep mentioning it. I'm going to keep mentioning all this stuff, and I don't care. Don't watch this because nobody watches this stuff anyway. I'm speaking to the universe, man. That's all I'm speaking to. I'm speaking to the universe, and I got limited resources to do this work, and when my resources are done, that's going to be it. It's not even going to be worth it. So, I don't know, I just had a weird little look there. Pause this for a second. Okay, I just had a confusing moment there. All right, it's all cleared up. So they can see the problem with other religions, and then this is the part of this is where the dissonance comes in. Okay, these thoughts, because let me just start with the column here. American government and Christianity. Okay, this is the American government and Christianity, and here's the first bullet point. Americans are not concerned about their government ruling over them. They do not think that their rulers are oppressive. And a lot of that is the television. A lot of that is the left-right dialectic, the dichotomy, splitting into two contrasting parts. It's two heads of the same coin. You can flip the coin all you want. You get heads or tails, but it's the same coin. And there's a lot of that. That's a very, 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 I have to say, unbelievably effective strategy. I mean, unbelievably effective strategy. You get a ruling class ruling over people and splitting the people they rule in half, and getting each side to think that it's the other side that's doing the terrible things to them when it's the ruling class doing it to both of them. Never get it. Never get it. I was talking to a local, I'd say, writer, reporter recently, and I could tell he's on the left side of the dialectic. I was trying to bring up the whole idea that the whole COVID thing has many inconsistencies, anomalies, assumptions, extrapolations, contradictions. And he immediately called me a conspiracy theorist. He said something about Trump, and then told me to watch some more Fox News and Breitbart. I guess Breitbart, I know that's like a British news organization, I think. I guess they're conservative. I don't know. But makes it sound. He also said, the Democrats. I get it. Like being sarcastic, I get it. The Democrats are trying to seize power, and he's. It sounds to me like he's on the left side of the dialectic. It's on the left side of the dialectic, and that dichotomy. Some people refer to a dialectic. I like to refer it as a dichotomy, but sometimes I use the words interchangeably. But I like to refer to it as a dichotomy. So Americans are not concerned about their government ruling over them. And that's both sides of the divide. And once again, the only problems, see, they don't see the actual problem, and that is no human should rule over another human being. No human should rule over another human being, period. They don't see that. They don't see that. So Americans don't see their rulers as oppressive, really. And of course, because they get something out of it. And then, next bullet point, most Christians do not realize the violent and oppressive aspects of their own religion. They cannot see the problems with all religions. And once again, it's cognitive dissonance. They're holding two contrasting thoughts. What's the truth? All cultural religions, while they have good tenets in them, unfortunately, unless you know and understand and know how to read the Bible and know and understand what's in it and where the stuff comes from, and understand the allegories, understand the metaphors, and understand what the real true story of the Christ figure was, which was about natural law, knowing, understanding, and aligning your actions with natural law, objective morality. And unless you know those things, unfortunately, which is a very, very paltry few, at least paltry few that know that and look to try to educate others to know and understand the good side. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that do know these things, but they don't tell their congregations about it, and they use it to control people. But all religions are mind control entities. And no human being has the right to rule over another human being. And they don't see that. They just say, well, China, Iran, North Korea, Russia, those rulers, no, they don't have the right to rule over us. But the American rulers have a right to rule over us. And they make up a lot of imaginations. Well, we all signed a contract back in 1776. All that nonsense, consent to the government. I never consented to anything. But then they say, well, when your parents gave you a social security number and a birth certificate, that means you consent. That does not mean I consent. Okay, that does not mean I consent. And folks, we're going to get to that in the next slide. We're going to get really deep into this in the next slide and just try to be productive here, try to be constructive. But that's the cognitive dissonance. No human has the right to rule over another human. And that's the other cognitive dissonance. They don't see the problem with religion, period. They just see, well, our religion, Christianity, is good, and Islam and Judaism, oh, they're terrible. No, it's all religion. It's all religion being used for mind control. And it's cognitive dissonance. And as long as people stay in that cognitive dissonance, their behaviors are going to be in contrast to what they say they want. And this really refers to a lot of good intentioned people. I'm talking about a lot of good intentioned people. I'm sure that local reporter writer guy that I talked to was a good intentioned person. He didn't, from what I read in the emails, didn't seem like an evil person. These are good intentioned people. But their actions will never match their intentions, and those behaviors go out into society. And what do we get? We get slavery. Let's move on. And here we go. Okay, folks, constitutions and Bibles are just words on paper. That's all they are. They're words on paper. Just because someone writes down on a piece of paper that you have to do this, and if you don't, I can get people to come and take you to a jail or whatever. If you resist, physically force you to go to the jail, and then, depending on how much you resist, kill you. I can levy fines against you. Just words on paper, folks. That's all this is. This is one thing that people just can't let go of. They can't let go of. They can't let go of the fact that it's all just, the Bible's just a book written by human beings. God did not write the Bible. Every time you see, all this God says this, God says that, those are metaphors, folks. They're metaphors. They're allegories. There's no human form of a God, from my understanding. We humans construct a God in human form, and it's used to control people. I mean, you want to view your higher power in some certain way, that's fine, but unfortunately, people use that to control people, and it's not good. And really, a higher power has nothing to do with anything human in any way. But Constitution, Bible, just words on paper, just writing on a piece of paper. That's all it is. It's just writing on a piece of paper. And people just can't get this. So you go to the government belief on the piece of paper. God has ordained me. I can rule over you. You must obey me. If you do not obey me, I will harm you. And let's go to the actual truth. God never did that. You are not my ruler. I will not obey you. If you try to harm me, I will fight you. How many people in this country, how many men in this country can even just conceive that, or just maybe want to have a little discussion about that? I mean, a real discussion, not these guns up little boy discussions who, they get a couple beers in them or a couple glasses of coffee in them, and, they're talking about guns up. We're going guns up against Hillary Clinton. Get out of here. They go running to a voting booth is what they do, because they're cowards. Little boys. You ain't going guns up against anybody, little boy. Sit down. I'm talking about people having a real discussion about something very serious with very serious intentions. That's a whole different animal. That's a whole different animal. For those of you watching from other countries, that just means a whole different situation. It's an American slang term, I guess. A whole different situation, okay? It's just writing on a piece of paper. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about here. I hope I remember them all. But let me just go with this. Once again, like I said, this is just writings on a piece of paper, and people don't realize. See, I've covered this before in a lot of my natural law podcasts, that people think everyone's scrambling, like with the mandatory vaccines that are soon coming and going to be laws. Everybody's scrambling for something in the Constitution or some Supreme Court ruling or something, somebody, Nuremberg, Geneva Convention, somebody must have wrote something somewhere that, no one can make you take a vaccine. And folks, it doesn't exist. I mean, there's different forms of there's Nuremberg, but Nuremberg deals with experimentation, and they can say, we're not experimenting on you. This is an emergency, right? Emergency, right? Just like that goes back to the psychological underpinnings of do what I say, not as I do, right? Oh, well, the little kid sees mommy and daddy do what they told them not to do, and then a little kid says, well, mommy, look, you're doing that, and mommy says, well, this is a special situation, this is an emergency. Mommy has to break her laws because this is a serious situation. So that just wanted to touch on that little psychological underpinnings there. But once again, it's people just don't understand that you can search all you want, and really there's nothing anywhere in any piece of paper that's going to say you cannot put a vaccine in me. And even if it did, it doesn't mean anything. It's just a piece of paper. It's just writing on a piece of paper. That's all it is. And this is very significant because there's Supreme Court rulings that say, oh, we can jab you, and then there's the Constitution, emergency police power. Sorry, your Bill of Rights are not, once an emergency comes up, the Bill of Rights is suspended. That's what constitutions are, folks. That's what constitutions are. Constitutions are basically, hey, guess what, people? You have these rights, but we can revoke them anytime we want if we see an emergency, right? Do as we say, kids, not as we do. Sorry, kids. We have to violate our own rules because this is an emergency. So this is very important because they say they can rule over us. Hey, we wrote down that we can rule over it. Well, guess what? Hey, we wrote down that you can't rule over us. How about that? We wrote down that you can't. We wrote down that we can vaccinate you. Well, we wrote down that you can't vaccinate us. What's the difference? Nothing. It's words on paper. Means nothing. Folks, many people think, oh my God, we have to have government because there has to be rules. Folks, there are rules. There are rules. It's called natural law. And one of those rules, a fundamental underpinning of natural law, is do not initiate harm to another sentient being. And that's all people really need to know. Doesn't mean that life is that simple. It's not, but it's a start. We're not even near that. So I understand that people aren't going to watch this video and then all of a sudden 200 million people here in America are going to say, you know what, we're done. We don't want government anymore. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen. What I'm trying to get people, the reason why I'm putting this information out is to try to just get people to understand that just as much as these rulers make rules, we can make rules. Anybody can make a rule. It doesn't mean anything because no human being has the right to rule over another human being. And maybe you're not completely ready. Oh, I'm not ready. I have to still have some government. I still have to have some police. Okay, maybe we can do without the military, but we got to have the police. If you just start knowing and understanding the fundamental rules of objective morality, at least that's a start. Maybe we can, this is not my wish, but maybe we can dial this back a little bit and start raising our consciousness. We can start weaning off this intense control. Fat chance. But it's not that I think, people listen to this and they react immediately. Oh my God, you're saying get rid of government. Folks, your government's going nowhere. Your government's going nowhere. Your religions are going nowhere. Your Christianity is going nowhere. Going nowhere. Look, I can tell you this. I will say this. The current paradigm of industrialized, militarized society and intense human rulership is collapsing. It is collapsing. And many people think, well, great, all right, well, not many people, some people who actually like want true freedom think great, and I think great too, but it's not going to be great. It's not going to be great for those of you who want true freedom. You got to get out there. You got to start trying to inform people about these concepts, because if this proxy parental system collapses, people are going to lose their minds. Do you realize how many people are connected to this governmental system psychologically, emotionally, physically? They work for it. They receive benefits from it. People are going to go nuts. If this system collapses before people are ready, it's going to be like them zombie movies, man. People are going to be eating each other in the street. People are not going to know what to do. That's why I'm trying to teach people, get people to start understanding. So if this system does collapse, you can at least have a little understanding, like, hey, you know what, I've been thinking about this, and I'm mentally prepared. I got some physical preparations, and a firearm would be a good idea. Preparations, mentally prepared, so people won't freak out, because this apparatus is collapsing, folks. And I'm all for it. I'll take it. Whatever the consequences, man. Whatever the consequences are, I'll take it. Folks, this paradigm that we're living under can't continue. It won't. It won't continue, because natural law is in effect, whether we follow it or not, and we're getting the effects of it, and it's not going to continue. This whole system is going to collapse. This whole system is going to collapse. Unfortunately, our life support systems are very likely going to completely collapse with it, and there's going to be no recourse there. But it is possible this constructural system could start collapsing, because our life support systems are collapsing as well. And but I mean, I'll take it, but it's not going to be a good thing, because people are going to go nuts. People are going to lose their minds. But if people start understanding this, maybe they'll be able to handle it better. And that's what this is, folks. It's constitutions, Bibles, they're just stories. They're just, Bible's just stories. The Constitution is just stuff people wrote on a piece of paper. Just as much as they could write something on a piece of paper, we could write something on a piece of paper. Just as much as they can say, well, all right, you have to take your vaccine because, this is an emergency. And we have emergency powers, and, well, forget about, your constitutional amendments because they're suspended. And then we can say, you know what? We're not going to have our constitutional amendments suspended. We're going to go with our constitutional amendments. We're going to go with the First Amendment, and we're going to go with the Second Amendment. If you try to harm me, I will fight you. How many men in this country can even truly, maturely, and objectively even begin to conceive that? All these guns in this country, man. I swear to God, I bet so many people in these other countries, like these people in China, are just like, damn, those Americans have all those guns. What are they doing? All those guns, and they're just letting the ruling class just punk them. I bet they're just confused over in other countries. Like, why haven't the Americans stood up yet? And I don't even mean like shoot people and stuff. I just mean like standing up, like verbally. Standing up, like verbally. Standing up, protesting. Once again, protesting, going out with signs. Government, please acknowledge my rights. I mean, look, I say this about protests. At least people are getting out doing something, getting off their asses. I mean, that's a nice thing, but real protesting is just saying, you know what, we're not going to pay your taxes. That's real protesting, boy. You want to really protest? We're not paying taxes. That's a protest, my man. That's a protest. Yeah, that'll be the day. That'll be the day. How about we just have a little discussion about conceiving that idea? How about that? People can't even do that. Oh my God, what? Don't pay your taxes. Now I can certainly understand people thinking, oh no, I don't want to do that, because of course, they're going to be the only ones. The whole town will get together. We're not paying our taxes, and then you'll say, all right, yeah, I'm not paying my taxes either, and then they'll all punk out. You won't pay your taxes, and then you'll have the whole enforcement apparatus showing up at your house while your neighbors sit around and watch drinking a beer while they're hauling you off for not paying your taxes. I understand. Believe me, man. Believe me, I understand. That's why I'm trying to get people enlightened to this idea. That's really the idea here. The idea here is whatever they can write down on a piece of paper, we can write down on a piece of paper. I mean, as long as, it would be preferable if we were writing down on pieces of paper moral stuff, stuff that's aligned with natural law. But the idea I'm trying to present to you is that just as much as they write something on a piece of paper, we can write something on a piece of paper. Just like with the Constitution. All right, folks. So once again, I said this. I'm going to say it again. We're going with the emergency powers. Sorry, you don't have no rights. And then we can say, you know what? We're going to go with the other side of the Constitution. We're going to stick with the Bill of Rights. Oh, but it says here in this. Well, it says here this. Oh, well, the Supreme Court ruled this. Well, you know what? We ruled this. What's the difference between the Supreme Court and us? What's the difference between the Supreme Court and me? Supreme Court doesn't own me. Supreme Court is not my master. Supreme Court said you got to take your vaccine. Well, you know what? I don't want to take my vaccine. So I just wanted to hammer this out. And I don't know, maybe I'll come back to this or whatever, and that's really my points here. And it's that cognitive dissonance, man. A cognitive dissonance. Well, it says in this document that they're allowed to rule over us. And then they'll say, I'm a grown man and I don't take shit from any man. Well, you're taking shit from another man. You're in cognitive dissonance. You're allowing a government to rule over you. So that'll be it for this live.
Okay. Once again, Bill Hoy here, willhoy.com. There you have it. I want to touch a little bit on just the whole idea of they can say what they want and we can say what they want. They can write down what they want and we can write down what we can write down what we want and they can write down what they want. I think I said that all right. But I do want to touch on this, okay? I was just looking into some information last night. I go over a lot of broadcasts and documentaries that I've gone over in the past. That's what I spend my nighttime doing. And just want to be clear once again. I know in this video I didn't talk about veganism and carnism, eating meat, not eating meat, stuff like that. I didn't talk about that in this episode, but I have in the past. And the first episode I talked about it, and pretty sure I'm going to talk about it in the third, in part 3. This was the conclusion of part 2. And I just want to be clear, from what I learned, it looks like many people actually, probably in the freedom movement, think that people who talk about the problems associated with carnism, especially at the obsessive compulsive level, we're engaging in carnism and carnism as a regular dietary practice, and then actually as a religion and an addiction. Many people think people who point these things out are shills for the power structure or something like that, because many of them think maybe the power structure is trying to get people to become vegans. And I've always said I'm not trying to, none of my presentations are about veganism, vegetarianism. I'm not trying to trick anybody into becoming a vegan. All I'm asking is people look into the whole species domination ideology and how that creates cognitive dissonance, okay? And how it's also a violation of natural law. It just is. Do not initiate harm to another sentient being. Animals are sentient beings. I don't know what else to say. But apparently, from what I learned, it's possible that another solution of the power structure is to herd us, because once again, we humans are farm animals for the power structure. Power structure being, your typical secret societies, politicians, royals, bankers, the Vatican, all that. We're farm animals, and they're trying to change our diets. I guess there's one, possible idea that's out there, and I think that could be possible. I haven't looked too much into it, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was possible, if that was true. But that's not what this is about. Okay, I will say that I've touched on, the pollution of meat eating, and I mentioned the book. Read the book Animal Factory. I think Daniel or David Kirby. I forget the actual author's name. I don't have the internet on right now, but I would look into that. You could see just the pollution alone, and the power structure could have ideas for, once again, the power structure has a plan to handle the pollution on this planet, and really it includes, from what I'm seeing, eliminating all of us, but having us change our diet in the interim could be a part of that. But that's not what this is about, folks. This is about aligning thoughts and behaviors and aligning them with the knowledge of natural law, and that's it. That's all I'm going to talk about that, because when most people can't, I've said this several times. I said this in part 1. You try to mention this stuff to people and they're done. They're gone. And, once again, you can't just reduce your meat eating one meal a day. I mean, one meal a day, dude. One meal a day. It's not hard. Breakfast could be the easiest. Just have fruit, yogurt, walnuts, almonds, stuff like that, man. It's easy. One meal a day, and you'll be helping yourself, man. Be more healthy for you. So I just want to talk about this, about the whole idea of, well, the ruling class can say, we're going to go with our police powers in the Constitution, we're going to suspend the Bill of Rights. But at the same time, we can say, well, you know what, like I mentioned in part 2 there, we can go with the Second Amendment. And in the Second Amendment, it says, in the Second Amendment, it says the right to, I'm not sure if this is an exact quote, but I wouldn't say this is an exact quote. I'm just going to say something along the lines of, the right of the citizenry to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and it's necessary to maintain a free state. State meaning like state of existence, not state like New Jersey, state of existence. And we could also say that we're going with, I'm not sure what the title of it is in the Constitution, but in the Constitution somewhere, I'm pretty sure it says that the citizenry has the right to abolish a government if it gets too tyrannical. So there you go. We're going to go with that. And then, of course, they'll return with, well, we're going to go with the government has the right to quell all insurrections. Well, once again, folks, like I said, words on paper, be spinning around in a circle. That's what constitutions are. Constitutions are just a dog chasing its own tail. That's all it is. But once again, like they can go with emergency police powers and the right to quell insurrections. We can go with the Second Amendment, and because we want to maintain a free state, and we could also go with whatever, I don't know what the clause is, that the government's becoming too tyrannical and we want to abolish it. We could go with that. I mean, just words on paper. Just words on paper, folks. And I'm not a constitutional expert. I'm not an expert in anything. I'm just a guy that studies stuff. And I'm getting pretty good at knowing and understanding and aligning my behaviors with natural law. So that'll be it. Wrap it up. Part 3, I'm going to talk more about specific behaviors and what they actually are in society and how that relates to the numbers game and how that translates to, as more people behave morally, more, the society will be more free, and vice versa. As more people, which is what we have, are behaving immorally, we become more enslaved. I mean, look at mask laws, man. I mean, whatever you want to think about masks, no one should be forced to do anything against their moral free will. And that's what we have. And that's called slavery, folks. I don't care what your preferences are. It's not about preferences. It's about morality. And you know what? I don't care if you don't want to watch this anymore. I don't care if you don't want to look at anything I do. Because you know what? Once again, like I said before, I'm speaking to the universe. That's it. I know no one's listening. All right. So that's it. Part 3 coming up.